So is it about time for these culturally insensitive mascots to go away, or is this just another sign that the country is going ultra sensitive toward political correctness? Joining us live in the newsroom now is Fox 26 legal analyst Chris Tritico, Fox 26 news analyst Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst Jackie Bally. Good morning, you guys.
Good morning.
So what do you think about this one?
You know, you asked the question, is it time to change these culturally insensitive mascots? And I think the answer to that question is yes. But the real question is are these names culturally insensitive? Isn't that really what we ought to be focusing on? Because calling someone the Indians or the rebels, I'm not sure that that should be striking at those culturally insensitive names like names that we've had in the past. And so that leads us to your second question, which is, are we just being ultrally sensitive and too politically correct? Jackie Bally, we'll start with you. Are names like Indians and rebels, are those culturally insensitive to Indians?
We are definitely being ultra sensitive. I think this is an example of when you have zero tolerance and common sense just goes out of the window. I mean, a lot of these names and titles have been affiliated with schools and teams for many, many years, have tradition. A lot of the past alum, they have pride that's instilled through their schools, through their teams, especially in smaller cities where local high school is really the crux of the major entertainment for these smaller towns. And these schools have had this name for quite a bit of time. And you notice that the complaints are not usually coming from the students or even the parents of the students. It's coming from outside groups who are coming in and saying, we need to change this.
You know, Mustafa Tamiz, isn't there a distinction, or shouldn't there be a distinction between something that truly is an attack on a Native American or an African American as opposed to something like the name Indian, or we'll get to the Washington Redskins in a minute, which I think is probably a little bit closer. The name Redskin could be a little bit closer to culturally insensitive. Isn't there a distinction?
Well, the distinction also is that Washington Redskins, they are a professional team. This is a high school team, and shouldn't we try to, get rid of some of these cultural biases over time, especially when it deals with our young people? So that's a difference too. Look, if the case is that we've had this for a long time and we've been fine and we don't need to change anything, so we don't need to change the slavery laws. We don't have to have the civil rights movement. We don't have to have a lot of other things because we live with it for a long enough time. And in terms of what is offensive and what is not, it's kind of like the Supreme Court. It's in the eye of the beholder. And so if there's a group of people that feel like this is discriminatory towards them, and a locally elected board has voted on it, it's time for us to move on rather than continue to criticize it. If everything from a conservative viewpoint is about local control and local elected officials and local people making local decisions, this is as local as you get. It's at the school board level.
We're going to talk about that in a minute because that's a very Republican thing he just said. We'll talk about that in a minute. I want to go to Donnelly first. Donnelly's monitoring our social media accounts. I know this has been a hot topic for a long time.
It has certainly been a hot topic, and it seems that most people who are commenting are saying that this is just going a little bit overboard. Michael Bowler says the whole argument is annoying. He says the Redskins mascot name was never intended to insult or disrespect anyone. Roberta Lee says, frankly, it makes me a bit sad. What about honoring the history of those who helped shape America? It is not culturally insensitive. So are you guys finding that most people are saying, what's the big deal?
Well, and what I'm saying is kind of a mix of what we're seeing right here on the panel today is that there's a whole host of people that say, who cares? The name Indian is not offensive. And there are those who say, and a lot of people who say the name like Washington Redskins, which seems to be making fun of Native Americans, it goes over the line. But let's talk about what Mustafa just said. You want local control, you got it. Now, why are we griping about it?
Well, let's talk about all the dollars that we're going to have to take to change the name, change the mascot, change the uniform. Those are a lot of dollars that we could actually be putting directly into the classroom, as much as we're concerned about mascot names, we should be more concerned about the huge dropout rate and put the dollars into the classrooms as opposed to trying to change a mascot's name. And if this was such an issue, again, we would have been hearing from the parents and the students. In some of these instances, you have one or two people most who are complaining about this. In my school, we wore our mascot was the ganders, but the Confederate flag was our flag. at Robert E. Lee in Baytown.
Oh,
Well,
wow, really?
Yes, and a part of, you have to understand that part of our, in order to know where, me as a black person, where I am right now and where my future is going to be, you do have to understand where your past is.
And you danced with the rebel flag.
Well, I had to. I was a cheerleader. So, I mean, those are some of the things that you did.
All right, we got to go right on. Leave it right there with Jackie dancing with the rebel flag, and we'll have to come back to this one day so she can explain all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my high school mascot wasn't controversial at all. We were the zebras. It wasn't very tough either.
We were the bears. So.
Thanks, guys.